So you'll notice that Carlos Maza has Tucker Carlson is a white supremacist in his bio. And I always thought that was kind of weird. And then I learned that he'd previously worked for Media Matters before going to Vox. And so when I saw this, Tucker Carlson's descent into white supremacy, a timeline, I thought, well, I guess we're going to have a look at it. Let's see Media Matters evidence, what presumably Carlos Maza is using when he calls Tucker Carlson a white supremacist. Because I've got to say, I've watched quite a few of Tucker's segments and never came across like a white supremacist to me. Maybe I'm just not hearing those dog whistles. Maybe I'm just getting old. My hearing isn't what it used to be. Or perhaps I've never been a dog, and so I only hear plain speech. Anyway, in 2007, he said Barack Obama sounds like a pothead. Okay. He called the NAACP a sad joke that should be shut down. Okay. I don't consider either of those to be white supremacy, but that's at the start of it in 2007. Then apparently he didn't do anything white supremacist until 2010, where he said that, Carlson said that when Democrats say then Senator Harry Reid supports civil rights, what they're saying is he's for racial set-asides. Well, he's presumably pro-identity politics, is what you're saying, right? While criticising Democrats who defended then Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid after he made racist remarks about Obama, which I'm sure he did, Carlson claimed on Fox News Reid supported racial set-asides, which sounds like he's complaining about racial set-asides. I'm not exactly sure what he means by that, but, let's just give him the benefit of the doubt, because it sounds like he's arguing against identity politics in an era when it wasn't really called identity politics. I mean, this was back in 2010. But, okay. And then again in 2010, Carlson said Obama was using racial anxiety, similar to Nixon's Southern strategy for political gain. Isn't that him calling out identity politics? Sounds like it is. But again in 2010, Carlson said that Reverend Jeremiah Wright was the one story that could have destroyed Obama, and compared Wright to a grand dragon of the KKK. Tucker Carlson doesn't like Obama. Jeremiah Wright is a story. I'm not familiar with what happened here, but it was Obama's pastor. Comparing him to the KKK would make it sound like Tucker Carlson didn't also like the KKK, and therefore comparing the two is a way of denigrating Obama. Just saying. Anyway, so Carlson seems to think that white supremacy is bad in 2010. And again in September 2010, wow, this is really, really specific. Carlson claimed the NAACP is totally discredited, some would say pathetic. Okay, but that doesn't make him a white supremacist, does it? What is there some political gain by proving there is racism amongst the Tea Party? There has to be some towards some end. The end is keeping Democrats in power. Well, I mean, that was 9 years ago, but it seems to have been truly prophetic, doesn't it? Because now the Democrats can literally be summed up as the hunt for racism in everything. Forever. I mean, what else do they do? What else do they fucking talk about? It's like communism or racism. That's all they go on about. Oh, sorry, climate change, which is also racist and it needs a communist solution. What a fucking shock. Okay. So fast forward 2013, he wasn't a white supremacist for another 3 years. Carlson said that in Phoenix, a diversity program was informed by the same rationale that propped up Jim Crow for 80 years. That's him arguing against white supremacy, because in his mind, Jim Crow white supremacy was bad. And he's like, hey, your diversity program sounds a lot like that thing that was bad. That's him arguing against white supremacy. Good job. Nothing again until the next year. Carlson advocated for an older white guy appreciation day. Really, was that sarcasm? Did Tucker Carlson use sarcasm? I mean, was he using your own rhetoric against you? Older white men had done a lot for this country, speaking as one of them. He advocated for an older white guy appreciation day, naming penicillin as an example of their contributions. That sounds like a joke. He told in 2015, again, and a whole year passes, and then he does one more white supremacist thing. Carlson told conspiracy theorist Alex Jones that the Obama administration was pushing Nazi politics. So what, did he vote for Obama? Was he advertising Obama when he did this? Again, that sounds like he's framing this in a particular way to suggest that white supremacy is negative. In fact, race politics generally is negative, and someone who's pushing that kind of politics is a bad thing. Kind of makes Tucker Carlson sound like he's not a white supremacist. Kind of makes him sound directly in opposition to white supremacy, but I'm just going by what you've told us. I clearly don't have the full facts here, because God forbid Media Matters do that. But later on that same month, he called the relocation of a statue in St. Louis University that depicted Native Americans kneeling to a white missionary an act of racism. Okay, so he's against racism, and that's what he perceives to be racism. He called it wholly ignorant. So, where's the white supremacy? In 2015, he said that CBS Stephen Colbert wearing a Black Lives Matter wristband showed he's so rich, famous celebrity guy, so out of touch, he doesn't fully understand what that represents. Okay, how's that white supremacy? Is it white supremacy to criticize Black Lives Matter? Because there's an awful lot to criticize there. What do I know, though? I mean, he'd probably call me a white supremacist. Everybody's life matters, period. Just not seeing the white supremacy there. Again, in 2015, Carlson said that then candidate Donald Trump is the embodiment of the frustrations of those who are labelled racist or nativist but have legitimate anti-immigration concerns. Ah, I see. The racists, at least as Media Matters would frame them. You mean the people in the flyover states, the middle of America, who are like, hey, all this mass immigration seems like a bad idea. Could we not do that? To which the left replies, you're fucking racist. And now they have Donald Trump. And they're probably going to get another 4 years of Donald Trump because all they can do is call their opponents racist. Right. Yep. Very white supremacist. Definitely Tucker Carlson being a full-on Nazi there. But August 2016, again, for another year, he didn't do anything white supremacist. Amazing. Carlson attacked the Black and Hispanic Journalists Associations. Why? Are they above criticism because they're Black and Hispanic? Because I would suggest that was racist. But anyway, and inherently white supremacist to assume that an organization that they consider to be run by white people can be completely criticized, like Fox News. But the Black and Hispanic Journalists Associations, well, you can't criticize them. They're just the darkies, according to the left. And it seems like Tucker Carlson doesn't hold that position. So if anything, when it comes to criticizing a group like that, it sounds like Tucker is the person who's anti-white supremacy. Treat them as equals, you know? But he said, if you take three steps back, Journalist Association for minority groups are kind of a little odd. Yes, they are. In fact, it's weird that you would want such a thing. Why should they coalesce around racial identity? Oh, total white supremacy there. He's basically saying we need journalist associations for white people alone, and black people aren't allowed them. Isn't he? Obviously fucking not. In August 29th, later that month, in fact, 2016, Carlson responded to NFL player Colin Kaepernick's protests against police brutality, asking, when did rich people become victims? Oof, that's a good line of attack. So, white supremacy then, for pointing out that Colin Kaepernick is rich. The very next month, it took an entire month this time before he did something else white supremacist. He claimed it was absurd of Hillary Clinton to point out implicit racial bias. He denied that racism is still a big issue in America by calling a comment by Hillary Clinton about implicit bias in the US absurd, and claiming that we should all be adults instead of acting like America is still in 1955. Well, that's only because that would be a salient observation that most people in America probably aren't racist, and it's a tiny fringe who are controlling the Democratic Party that are turning more and more people racist by whining that everyone is a racist and calling everything white supremacy. But hey, maybe Hillary Clinton was right. Maybe, just maybe, America is a massively racist country and everyone in it is basically evil. Don't know why you're for open borders, Media Matters, but hey, that's a totally different story. 1 month later, Carlson dismissed extremism by claiming the American Nazi Party and the KKK don't really exist in a meaningful way. That's true. Like, they're tiny, tiny organizations that have such little public support. It's almost, like, you wouldn't notice them if the media weren't constantly bringing them up. They are so small and irrelevant, that the media has to drum them up and put, say, someone like Richard Spencer as the face of white supremacy, because otherwise you wouldn't know who he was. If the media didn't promote him, I would have no fucking idea who Richard Spencer was. And the next day, the very next day, Carlson reflexively defended then attorney Jeff Sessions' racist past. He was nominated. He told a guest about concerns about his record of racism was fear-mongering, and that he couldn't be racist because Alabama is a diverse state. Well, I agree. I mean, he could still be racist, even though Alabama is a diverse state, but I don't really know much about Jeff Sessions. I'm just going to assume he's a Nazi, and that Tucker was defending him. There we go. Jeff Sessions, official Nazi, Tucker defending him. This is something close to him supporting white supremacy, if we look at this in the most uncharitable way we can. December the 21st, 2016, so again, another month without doing anything Nazi-ish. Carlson compared affirmative action to slavery during Jim Crow and Japanese internment. But is he not against all of those things? Like he's comparing them because they're bad. How is that a descent into white supremacy? Anyway, 2 months later, he complained that college campuses, everyone gets a safe space except white men they are hated and despised. Ha! Is that white supremacy? Because it sounds like that's equality. If everyone else gets a safe space, why don't the white men get a safe space? That's not white supremacy, that's white equality. If you're going to call it anything media matters, you're fucking morons. And again, he doesn't want that either. Like, he actually doesn't want that. He is just using your own logic to critique the things that you're doing, suggesting, look, if anything, you guys are racial supremacists. And let's be honest, you are. And that's an issue to him, because I don't believe that Tucker wants to be politically racial in any way, shape, or form. But that's only because I've watched a lot of his content, I've listened to what he said. I mean, you know, if you didn't watch a lot of his content, or you scrutinized it in a way that assumes that he's a racist and then looks for reasons to prove it, then I suppose that you would twist all of this. But anyway, and a month later, again, I love it how it's not, I mean, like a racist, surely every day when they're on the radio or on TV, they'd be saying racist things. They would just be saying it constantly. But no, not with Tucker. He'll go a whole month or even 3 years with saying nothing racial or racist. It's so weird. But anyway, he apparently dismissed this George Ramos's opinion as a Hispanic American by claiming Ramos looks whiter than I am. Well, to be honest with you, that's actually a legitimate critique. I mean, you could suggest that maybe it was colorist, but if that's the case, then Ramos has more white privilege than Tucker Carlson, if he's got lighter skin. So Tucker is actually justified within the framework of intersectionality to do that. So, I mean, how's that white supremacy? If anything, it sounds like it was tearing it down. Later that month, though, only 5 days later, he hosted Congressman and white supremacist Steve King and defended him after King received backlash for a racist tweet. He tweeted in support of right-wing Dutch politician Geert Wilders. Oh, right, okay. Oh, okay. As I'm aware, though, Steve King probably is a racist. So let's say this is 2. So we'll chalk this up to 2. The next month, he mocked the inclusion of women scientists of colour in the March for Science, which meant the organisers hate white men more than they hate global warming. True. I mean, obviously. Duh. While ranting about more than 350,000 immigrants arriving in Europe, Carlson referred to the refugee influx as an invasion, changing Europe's demographics. Well, any migrations do change demographics. I mean, is that a problem? If that's a problem, well, now, I mean, I suppose that explains why you hate gentrification, right? Oh, all these white people have come over. Oh, white supremacy. This is awful. Changing demographics is bad when it's happening to something we like, but when it's happening to something we don't like, say a continent that's mostly full of white people, it's just fine. You're a white supremacist if you're opposing this, which honestly must logically mean that you are a black or non-white supremacist if you complain about gentrification. It's just diversity, kid. What's the problem? It's just diversity. So the next month, he said he was pretty sympathetic to the alt-right anti-Semite troll known as Baked Alaska. While interviewing Ben Smith, Carlson said he was pretty sympathetic to their former employee, who claimed that Jews control the media and went on to participate in the Unite the Right rally. Well, definitely. That's strike 3. Carlson falsely claimed that a Texas voter ID law that racist Texas voter ID law, that several courts found to be discriminatory against minority voters had nothing to do with race. Except it actually doesn't have anything to do with race, does it? In 2016, a federal appeals court explained that under the law, black voters would be 1.78 times more likely than whites, and Latinos 2.42 times likely to lack the ID required to vote. So it's not racist then. Just because more white people have ID than black people doesn't mean that a law requiring ID is racist. There's nothing preventing these people from getting ID. They just haven't, clearly. And this is his third entry in May 2017. He was really Nazi-ish here. He took issue with the media portraying a murderer from Portland, Oregon as a white supremacist. Well, I guess that he was definitely a white supremacist then. I mean, he says, like progressives everywhere, they see racists under every bed. Well, they do. A month later, Tucker defends Trump's Muslim ban by asserting it doesn't ban Muslims. Well, it doesn't. It only banned people from 7 different countries, and there were 30 Muslim countries. So, this is a Muslim ban that allows Muslims in from certain countries that don't have a history of extremism. Weird. That's very, very Muslim banish. Tucker Carlson wasn't happy that Alaska renamed Columbus Day to Indigenous Peoples Day, calling it an attack on civilization. Well, I mean, it is an attack on American civilization. So, as an American, I can see why he would be unhappy with that. But America isn't just a white country, is it? I mean, there are non-white people whose stories are integral to the history of the United States. So, just saying. Carlson claimed that the left calls Trump vulgar, even though liberals applauded when Obama vacationed with rappers. Is that white nationalist? How's that white nationalist? After asking if Western civilization was superior than the cultures of the Middle East immigrants coming to the United States, Carlson denied even knowing what white nationalist means. Well, I mean, that's not something that we're going to debate, is it? Is Western culture superior to Middle Eastern culture? The obvious answer is yes. I'm sorry to tell everyone this, but it's not to do with the race, it's just to do with what the countries do. I mean, if we look at the Human Development Index, the Corruption Index, all that sort of stuff, we are clearly doing better. Carlson used the slur gypsies and claimed that Roma immigrants have little regard for the law or public decency. Well, as anyone who has any experience with gypsies will know, and it's not a slur, as far as I'm aware, they do. They seem to want to have a kind of separate civilization to the wider civilization around them. Don't know what to tell you. Carlson objected to the push to remove Confederate statues, comparing it to the extremism of the Taliban in Afghanistan, Khmer Rouge in Cambodia, and Mao in China. Well, any kind of iconoclasm, tearing down any parts of the history, are kind of the examples of revolutionary extremist groups. There's no need to tear down a country's history, because that is the story of how you became what you are. There's only a need to tear that down if you hate the thing that you are, and you seek to radically change it. And he doesn't hate the thing that he is. Carlson attempted to minimize America. Oh my God, this really goes on. But the thing is, right, I'm not seeing a lot of actual racism in this. Carlson defended the tweet racist Britain First Twitter account that Trump retweeted. Okay, I mean, let's assume that they are actual fascists. I'm happy to characterize them as fascists and racists. So that's something. Characterized criticism of Trump's tweet as creeping fascism and an assault on free speech by those who hold a diversity agenda. Unquestionably true. That is unquestionably true. You do not have to be a white supremacist to acknowledge this. But let's see if we can get to anything from 2019, because my God, they really want... Oh, Jesus, I didn't realize how long this list was. Was that Dave Rubin interview? Oh, dear. Yeah. Another white supremacist. Jesus, this really goes on. So let's see the last one. Carlson said that banning Alex Jones, Laura Loomer, Mike Yiannopoulos, and other extremists from Facebook amounts to fascism. Well, none of those 3 people listed there are white supremacists. So, you know, I'm just saying, why don't you have very many examples out of the hundreds of examples of things you take issue with of Tucker actually defending white supremacists? But more importantly, why don't you have one example of Tucker Carlson actually saying something that could be reasonably and demonstrably considered to be white supremacist?